Alright, so I came out to do some work on the Mustang, and I got the first shock tower out. As you can see, I drilled out all the spot welds. Ow! That is what they look like on the back side. You can get under the car for the motor mount, drilled these spot welds out too. Kept this intact because I just cut through this on the back side. I'll show you. See that? I just cut that away since, you know, that wasn't gonna be saved. And these tabs that bend in, I just cut it off here on the side of the shock tower here. So now I got space to drill them out. And same thing here, I got space to drill those out and clean this up. But yeah, it's pretty good. I use these spot weld cutters from Harbor Freight, and they have this plunger. When you stick it in, it plunges in. I use the drill bit to do like a pilot hole. Let's see, what size is this? 1/8. Use a drill bit to make a pilot hole so that this little plunger can sit in and stay. These are basically like a tiny hole saw, and you center it on the spot weld, and then it basically cuts a clean hole around the spot weld, and that's how those work. These are from Harbor Freight. They're a few bucks, so I just bought those while I was down there so I can start working on this thing. They work pretty good. I broke one doing this. I guess I was using too much speed and it overheated and it just like shattered and broke. But lesson learned. So yeah, I got one of the towers out. I did have to move this what is it, a pitman arm out of the way so I can get to these here on this corner, because when this is on, it's in the way of the drill. But other than that, all my suspension was already off of the car. You can see it all right there. So none of it except for the spindles is usable. The control arms have cracks in them and stuff like that. I want to go to disc brake, so the drums are going to be gone by the time I get this on the floor off of jack stands again anyway. So yeah, progress. So that's the first one. So using all these bolts to line it up with the apron, using these bolts to line up this piece with this piece, and then to the bottom here of the rail. It all should just kind of like fall into place once everything's ground down smooth. And then after that, I can start welding it into place. So I just wanted to test it, see where everything's at. And it looks like everything's gonna be lining up pretty good. So. Okay, the new shock tower is all prepped up. I got all the holes drilled. I just matched the holes that were on the original as far as placement and how many spot welds it's gonna get. So that's basically how I approached it. However many spot welds were in the original, that's how many I'm gonna put on this one. So this is all prepped. I got weld through primer in some areas. In some areas I've got scuffed down to clean metal. All right, I'm gonna test fit this one more time and then should be ready to burn some metal and get this welded in place. Got these panel alignment tools. Gonna put these spring guards in to help balance things up.
These are OEM holes. So factory stuff.
And the body alignment tool, it's got a taper point. So when you push it into the holes, it makes the layers of metal all align with that hole. That's what these things are for. They really help get things in place. Not too tight, so it has wiggle room still. Tight enough so that when I get it into place, it stays. Okay. So I made some reference marks on the stick before I removed my old shock tower. So this one, I lined it up with this bracket here to the shock tower. And that's supposed to line up with that when it's touching this part of the shock tower. So you can see my mark is pretty lined up, slightly off, but then also these things are aftermarket, so you know I'm pretty happy with that. So I made that mark from the original shock tower when it was still in there, so that's where I'm placing this one. That's one measurement. I also took this other measurement here from the firewall, from the radiator support here to the corner of the shock tower there. So that's pretty close. Yeah, that's pretty good right there. So these things kind of just fell into place and they're pretty good. So I'm happy with them. And I also took other measurements from the end of the firewall to this end of the shock tower, from these holes across to these holes, and same thing here to here, and from this hole across to this hole, all on the old shock towers. And I'm just going to reference all of those points when I'm lining everything up and measuring stuff, making sure I got it in the place that the original was in. I just used this old ruler here, and you know, wrote down some measurements. I used this stick and I just made tick marks there where those reference points were. And also there's shop manuals and stuff that have measurement points and stuff that you can reference. Keep in mind that there's going to be some variance within cars. Like if I measured from this point to this point on my car, it would probably be 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, 1/2 of an inch different on somebody else's car. One reason being, look at this panel here. It's not quite where it's supposed to be, but it's pretty close, you know. And these are OEM parts that are stamp dated. These are all original. These haven't been replaced. But then look at the other side. Look at that huge gap, and you can see that this is thrown off that way. And at the factory, to fix that, they just took like a rubber mallet and bent that into place to get it to fit. And like I said, these are original parts. These all have these are all date stamped and everything. These haven't been replaced, so that's factory stuff. So there is some variance, and you know, that's just how it used to be built. It wasn't robots building these things. It was Bill and Joe at the factory. So I'm gonna keep going on this. I'm gonna get it all lined up and just referencing my measurements that I took with the old shock tower, and going from there. I'm gonna start welding this thing up. I also have my export brace I'm going to be using. All right, everything's lining up pretty good. Got my export brace and everything. Got my clamps in. Took my measurements. Got these spring guards bolted down, and everything's looking good. It's looking like everything's where it's supposed to be. Reference all my measurements from when I had my old shock tower in there, and everything's looking good. It's all lining up pretty good. So it's time to get welding. All right. So it's all welded up. It's all in. That's all done. All right. gonna clean up these welds, spray some primer, and then that'll be the end of this. That shock tower is in. All right. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.